What's up guys, today we'll be going over a huge trench barrel buff and be breaking down exactly what that means for all the DPS numbers, and also kind of going over the god roll for the new Xeno class shotgun. Then finally at the end we'll be showing off a great way to take advantage of trench barrel on all three characters, and also a really cool warlock build I made. Anyways, today is the last day for my G Fuel code being 30% off. Once this video goes live, there is roughly 16 hours left of the code being 30% off, so go ahead and click the link in the comments and description and go over to the store. And if you want to support me outside of just watching my videos, the best way will be using my code. Anyways, let's go ahead and begin with the video with Trench Barrel. After a melee hit, this weapon gains increased damage, handling, and reload speed for a short duration or until 3 shots are fired. And that is what it says it does, but as you'll see, it's going to do much more. So looking at the damage on Carl without Trench Barrel, we hit 15, 4, 2, 3. Then we go ahead and melee him to proc Trench Barrel. It now goes to 23,137, which is going to be that 50% buff that Trench Barrel pretty much has always been. But now as you see when we melee Carl, it says Trench Barrel times 2 for 5 seconds. So what does that even mean? Well, pretty much what it means is we can shoot more than 3 shots off with the entire 50% buff. In fact, you can shoot off as many shots as you can until the buff goes away after that 5 seconds. And as you saw right there, we got 6 shots off with the full buff. Now with a 140, which has an 8 mag, seeing if we can get off the entire 8 shots with this. And as you see, we definitely can. So it's just until the timer's up is when the buff runs out. It's not tied to how many shots you do. So given the fact that we can get as many shots off as possible, with a 140, as long as you have a mag increase, you don't need backup mag, so you can use something like Major Spec or Boss Spec. Then on the 80 RPMs, as you saw, we barely got 6 shots off without Assault Mag, but with Assault Mag, it would go to 90 RPM, so maybe you get off 7, but if you don't have Assault Mag, or you just want a little bit more damage, you can use Major Spec or Boss Spec once again. Then we go ahead and look at the database for all the different Trench Barrel shotguns in the game. All the ones left are the 140s or 80 RPMs. All the 55 RPMs with Trench Barrel got sunset. So I'm going to be testing one 140, then one 80 RPM, and the 80 RPMs with Assault Mag go up to 90 RPM. And it seems like the only shotgun you can farm right now for Trench Barrel is the Xeno class. Starting off with the 140 RPM Perfect Paradox, which has Trench Barrel on it, and you can get this in Season of Dawn. It's looking for 19,210 on Carl. And look at the rate of fire over 1 magazine, including the melee. That's going to take 4.279 seconds, meaning 37,000 DPS, which is pretty good for a special weapon. These slugs are still a little bit higher, but that is definitely not too bad. Number 2 magazines taking advantage of max reload speed. Seeing how long that takes. It's gonna take quite a while. At 11.867 seconds, meaning it falls all the way down to 26.7 thousand DPS, which is not too bad. It's pretty much average for a special weapon. Then back to the 80 RPM Xeno class. With the boss spec, it now hits for 24,935. And I don't quite have the god roll yet. I have pretty much the god roll split between 2 different shotguns. The only thing I'm missing is Assault Mag. So for rate of fire testing, I'll be using this one right here, which is a 90 RPM. So doing that over 1 magazine, including the melee, will take 4.463 seconds, meaning 34.6 thousand DPS, which is a little bit lower than the 140, but not too far behind. And once again, this is pretty good for a special weapon. Then in the left slot, you can get a new perk called Dual Loader, which will reload 2 shells at a time but reduce the base reload speed of the weapon. But we take advantage of these to increase the base reload speed, for example Shotgun Loader, then also maybe even Lunafaction. The reload speed is pretty much not a problem at all. As you see, we reload all 6 shots so quick. It's like 1 second. So now putting together my Frankenstein 90 RPM shotgun test over 2 magazines, it's pretty interesting, and it takes 10.33 seconds, meaning just under 30,000 DPS over 2 mags, which was actually better than the 142 mag. So this god roll right here on the Xeno class will be pretty good for sustained damage. And given that this is the only Trench Barrel shotgun you can farm for right now, that isn't from a previous season, that is pretty good to know that it is one of the better Trench Barrel shotguns anyways. Then also we can't forget about Anarchy. Since the shotguns are all legendaries, we can pair them all with this exotic, and all we have to do is tag a boss twice. Now we'll pretty much add 14,500 DPS to any of our combos, taking the 140 to 51.5 thousand and the 90 RPM to 48.1 thousand, which are pretty good numbers. And keep in mind, this is no buff, no debuff, anything like that. Now moving on to the fun part of the video, which will be builds to take advantage of Trench Barrel right now in the game. The first one on Warlock will be with Necrotic Grip, which is the new exotic gauntlets. And I've already made a video on this exotic, but what they do is every single time you melee, it will start dot damage on them, just like Anarchy, but this one will scale higher and higher the longer it lasts. And overall, it roughly adds 4.7 thousand DPS to the combo. So now with all that going on, double stick Anarchy, melee to proc the Necrotic Grip, then Trench Barrel at the same time, then shooting with a shotgun, that combo right there will be roughly 52,831 DPS, which once again does not include a buff or debuff, so that is pretty good and up there with some of the best combos in the entire game. Then on Hunter, you can use the new Mask of Baccharis, which I've also made a video on, but what this does is it will give all arc weapons a 10% increase to their damage for 10 seconds, and this buff will stack with all other buffs in the game. And the Xeno class is arc, so that will work right there. Then obviously Anarchy is also arc, so the entire combo will work with this build, the build I showed off in yesterday's video. So looking at how that would affect the DPS of the combo, it would be pretty similar to the Warlock DPS at roughly 53,000. Another thing you could do on Hunter is use the Sealed Armcar Grasp, which is when you deal melee damage, it'll reload your currently equipped weapon. So what you can do with this is pretty much every single time you proc Trench Barrel, it will also reload your weapon, which means for sustained DPS where you need 2 or even 3 magazines, you pretty much will not have to reload ever with this combo. So this will be better for that 2-3 magazine DPS, but the mask will still be better for that burst DPS. And on Titan, I looked around and my first thought was Bottom Tree Striker with Frontal Assault, which is a way to reload your weapon. But when you first proc Trench Barrel, it will take your charge. So what you could do instead is use the first magazine with no Trench Barrel, then the second magazine with Trench Barrel, and you won't have to reload, but that isn't obviously that optimal. So overall in Titan, I really couldn't find anything that would work that well. And finally moving on to a build with Trench Barrel shotguns, and this build actually turned out really well, starting off with a Breach Light, then our Trench Barrel shotgun of choice plus Anarchy, then our exotic armor piece will be Necrotic Grip for that dot poison damage whenever we melee, then we'll be using Stasis with the Ice Flare Bolts aspect, then more importantly the Whisper of Hedrons, which will give us a 25% buff to weapon damage whenever we freeze a target. Then with that, looking at the mods we'll be using, the first one will be Quick Charge, which means every single time we get a double kill with a shotgun, we will become Charged with Light. And we also have stacks on stacks, that way every single time that happens, we get ×2 Charged with Light. Then with those stacks of Charged with Light, we'll be doing 2 different things. The first one will be right here, Reactive Pulse, which is pretty much my go-to mod with Charged with Light. It's insanely good. It's pretty much War Mind Cells, but without a Seraph weapon. Then the other thing we'll be doing is Heavy Handed, which is the top part where we'll get half our melee back when we use a charged melee. Then the second part, whenever we get a kill with a sidearm or shotgun while being surrounded, we'll get the ammo back to the reserves. So as long as we don't spam either of the weapons, we should have infinite ammo in both our Breach Light and also our Xeno class. Then the final mod will be Swift Charge, which will allow us to become Charged with Light with our Breach Light kills, and that will help us become Charged with Light more often. So overall, this build is actually a really good solo build. You can provide yourself with a pretty high DPS combo. You have a 25% buff with Whisper of Hedrons. Then you have the Necrotic Grip for the dot damage on the boss. You have Anarchy for that dot damage. Then at the same time, you'll be proccing Trench Barrel. So overall, that combo is really good. Then on top of that, this build has really good ad clear with the freezing and the way the aspect chains the freezing to more and more enemies. Then also we have demo on our Breach Light, so we get our grenade back even quicker. And we also have Heavy Handed to get our melee back quicker. Then also every single time we use that melee, it will do that dot damage that will chain to more and more enemies because of our Necrotic Grip. So overall, this build is pretty good for ad clear, really good for solo DPS, and overall just a really solid build. Anyways, I can't tell if this Trench Barrel change was intended or not. It's kind of hard to tell because they didn't mention it anywhere, but to be honest, this is how Trench Barrel should just be in general. So if this is a glitch and they do fix it, the fix better be just making the perk work like this anyways. Because as you see with some of the DPS numbers, Trench Barrel isn't broken in any way. It pretty much just makes the shotguns usable. So it kind of just highlights how bad the shotguns are in general. But with this updated Trench Barrel, they become pretty good and can compete with most of the other top tier specials in the game. So anyways, I hope this sticks around or they just make it how the perk works normally. Anyways, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.